أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين وصلى الله على محمد وأهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Dear brothers and sisters, السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. In this session, inshallah, I will talk about the justice of Imam Ali alayhi salatu wassalam. But as we both know, it is almost impossible to talk about the justice of Ali ibn Abi Talib in just one session. So I have picked one part of Imam Ali alayhi salatu wassalam's justice, which is the justice that he exercised towards non-Muslims under his rulings and reign. I will talk about three categories with respect to Imam Ali alayhi salatu wassalam's justice towards the non-Muslims. The first one is the social justice, the second one economic justice, and the third one is the judicial justice that Ali ibn Abi Talib showed to non-Muslims and religious minorities under his reign. So the first one was the social justice of Ali ibn Abi Talib towards non-Muslims under his authority and ruling. I just want to give you one example of Imam Ali salatu wassalam's life in a very famous epistle or letter that Imam Ali salatu wassalam wrote to his governor Malik al-Ashtar. He denotes some very important points with respect to the social rights of all people living under the government of Islamic government. And this is the epistle, a very long epistle. I mention some part of this epistle. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam says, habituate your heart to mercy for subjects and to affection and kindness for them. Do not stand over them like greedy beasts who feel it's enough to devour them, since they are of two kinds. A very famous phrase is this one. Since they are of two kinds, either your brother in religion or one like you in creation. So it doesn't matter whether that person that lives in your or under your government is a Muslim or non-Muslim. You have to be just toward that person. And another beautiful example of the life of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam with respect to the social justice that he exercised in his life was the incident that happened at his time, that some troops of Muawiyah at the time of that Ali alayhi salatu wasalam had this war with Muawiyah. Some troops of Muawiyah invaded the Islamic territory and harassed and actually looted some women in those territories. And this is what Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam says, that وَلَقَدْ بَلَغَنِي أَنَّ الرَّجُلَ مِنْهُمْ كَانَ يَدْخُلُ عَلَى الْمَرْأَةِ الْمُسْلِمَةِ وَالْأُخْرَى الْمُعَاهَدَةِ فَيَنْتَزِعُ حِجْلَهَا till the end of the tradition. And here's the translation of this part. Imam says, I have come to know that a number of them, Muawiyah's troops, entered upon some Muslim women as well as some non-Muslim women who are under the protection of Islam, and took away their ornaments from legs, arms, necks, and ears, and no woman could resist it. Then they got back laden with wealth without any wound or loss of life. If any Muslim, this is what Imam Ali ﷺ says, if any Muslim dies out of grief after all this, he is not to be blamed. Rather, to me, he deserves death. So the life of a person or the belongings of a non-Muslim person is as worthy as a Muslim under the Islamic territory to Imam Ali salatu wassalam. The second category is the economic justice that has to be observed under the Islamic territory. And actually it was exercised and it was observed by Ali ibn Abi Talib at his time. There are a number of examples. I just want to give you one example, one very beautiful example. There was a time that Ali ibn Abi Talib, together with his companions, they were passing one of the shawara, one of the streets of Kufa, and then they ran into a begging person. And Imam Ali asked his companions this question very beautifully. It says that فقال أمير المؤمنين ما هذا؟ قالوا يا أمير المؤمنين نصراني. فقال أمير المؤمنين استعملتموه حتى إذا كبر وعجز منعتموه. So Imam asked, what is this? This person is begging. Then Imam Ali asks, what is this? And he doesn't say that, who is this? It means that why on earth there is a beggar in the Islamic territory who is poor, and he had to beg for his life and for his economic life. And these people actually replied to Imam Ali that he is a Christian person, he's not Muslim, do not worry about this person. And then Imam said that he gave the criterion for dignifying a person, the economic affairs of a person under the Islamic territory. He says when he was young and he had his share in the Islamic economic affairs, he was not a Christian. No, he has to work. He had to work at that time when he was young, but now he became old, and now he has become Christian. So Imam Ali then went on and said, "Anfiqu alayhim min bayt al-mal." You should pay for him from the treasury of Muslims. And I believe maybe that was the first case in Islam that the pension was applied on people. A very actually informative tradition with respect to the pension, or the history of pension in Islam. The third category, which shows the justice of Ali ibn Abi Talib in the scope of non-Muslims, or the way that he treated non-Muslims under his ruling and reign, is the judiciary rights of people. And he observed those judiciary rights of non-Muslims as well. And he shows the adala and the justice of Ali ibn Abi Talib. A very famous story that a person, actually a Jew, and Ali ibn Abi Talib had a sort of quarrel over one shield. Like that, it was Imam Ali alayhi salatu wassalam's shield, and that person actually usurped that shield and claimed that shield to be his. And even though that Ali ibn Abi Talib was the head of 40 countries, as the standards of nowadays goes, and the standards of today's world, it was more than 40 countries under the government of Ali ibn Abi Talib, and he was the head of all those countries. And a Jew, a minority, religious minority, comes and usurps and steals the shield of Ali ibn Abi Talib, and then he claims that that shield is his. And Ali doesn't say that go away or treat him badly. He go to trial with that person, and then that judge, because of some allegations that was at that time, he said that the witnesses that you brought, he told Imam Ali that the witnesses that you brought are not accepted because of some technicalities that he thought that was true. And then he actually gave the right to that Jew. And when that Jew and Ali ibn Abi Talib were leaving the court, this is what happens, that this person, this Jew, turns to Ali ibn Abi Talib and says that you are the caliph of this country, and you have every right and power to demolish me, but you didn't, even though that you know that you are right. And he actually gave back that shield to Ali ibn Abi Talib and converted to Islam and embraced Islam. And this shows that a non-Muslim or a Muslim is not different to a Muslim governor. A true Muslim governor doesn't differentiate between the Muslim citizen or a non-Muslim citizen. So I believe that that will be enough for us to ponder upon the depth of justice that Islam has, and It was practiced by Ali ibn Abi Talib as one true example of a true governor, a Muslim governor, and a Muslim Caliph of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to become the true followers and Shias of Ali ibn Abi Talib, inshallah, in our life, especially in the way that we treat people, especially in the way that we treat people who may not be or may not have the same faith that we have, inshallah. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.